The scourge of gender-based violence is among the causes of mental health issues in society with far-reaching consequences. While several initiatives are being done to end the scourge, gender experts say men should always be included in the program. GBV, according to gender activists, deny women several opportunities in the economy or society and undermine their ability to utilize their talents and enjoy basic human rights. So this morning we are joined by Rodney Mutombo. He is a gender and women's rights expert who is the founder and executive director for Women Excel Trust, a women's rights organization, for an insight into some of these issues. Rodney, good morning and welcome to Morning Rush.
Morning, how are you?
I'm great. I hope you didn't have any traffic issues.
We heard actually, but well, we survived through.
Survived through because it looks like there's several measures that are going to be put in place to try and curb that. Hopefully, it will make it easier for both you and me and everybody. But what we want to talk about is a gender-based gender-based violence. This is an issue, especially that has been prevalent, and there are calls now for men to be involved in these issues. Why is it important for you and me primarily to be more involved in issues of GBV?
So I think by us being men already, we are on a privileged position because one, automatically we are subscribing to what the society is supposed or it's pushing us to be, like in a patriarchal system. Two, we are already as men, in as much as we are few, but we are the majority in power, we're the majority that influence the society. So by us being engaged as well, it will mean that since we're in position of power, we can actually cascade the information, the rightful information, and disseminate on how good is it for us men who are largely believed to be perpetrators, not to perpetrate in women. What are the advantages? What are not the advantages? Because men, I would like to believe, the society is socialized by men. Men call the shots. Men wants to be respected and to be listened to in the society. So by us engaging with men, it will be very easy for us to curb gender-based violence, in the sense that many at times we have, as organizations, gathered women and tell women you have rights, you're not supposed to be beaten, you're not supposed to be oppressed and whatnot. But less at times we've engaged those who are believed to be perpetrators and sensitize them and on one or two things. So I think men engage is one of the strategy or model that has really worked for us as CSOs in trying to curb gender-based violence.
But I mean, if somebody's watching this at home, men as well, and they're thinking, all right, I hear you, we have the power, we are the perceived perpetrators. At an individual level, what are some of the things that we can start doing to try and, be more engaged when it comes to issues of gender-based violence?
So I would like to believe that the first port of call for men is to give room to listen to women. In as much as we might say that we are dominant, we're superior, we just need to listen on the side of their story. Many a times men, they oppress women not knowingly. Because I'm a man, I should be listened to. Because I'm a man, I have the voice in here. Because I'm a man, I call the shots. But many a times you'd find that on a normal day, a woman might be having good strategies that a man, but because of our male ego that we don't want to be bruised and stuff, we tend to push away women, we tend to shut them down. But if we then give them time to listen for us to listen to them, I think it would really work on a whole lot of things. Listening will open many doors in trying to curb gender-based violence.
All right, let's listen to our women. I think that's the first and most basic step you can do. But last month was Women's Month, and how is the situation on the ground so far as women's rights are concerned, and maybe in relation to this issue that we're trying to unpack, the issue of gender-based violence? So
indeed, last month was a Women's Month, but I remember we did a commemoration in one of the rural areas in Zimbabwe, and I was talking to village heads and Vakazema Sabuk and whatnot, and I did this simple exercise. I was like, are you women who thinks that being beaten by his husband, it's love? Almost 20 women, they stood up and like, if Wangu Murumaga Sandirova, he no longer loves me. So you'd find that there's a really knowledge gap on the ground. As Zimbabwe, I would like to believe that we have good legal frameworks, good policies that ought to promote women. But however, in as much as we have those good documentation, well-crafted and whatnot, they're not actualized and implemented like on the ground. Two, there's no really knowledge or sensitization of men and women as well. So the issue is still really a cancer, and it's very bad, and it's very disheartening on how women as well in marginalized areas believe that, you know, being beaten is it's the romance part of it. But well, yeah, there's the situation on the ground, and the cases are so high. Like UNFPA, if I'm not mistaken, they were saying that 1 in 3 women every day experience gender-based violence. So check, we have 52% of women. So 1 in 3 of those 52% population of women still experience it. So it means that probably at the end of the month, there are millions of women that are being victims and survivors of gender-based violence.
That's absolutely shocking, especially when you look at the 1 in 3. Those are disturbing and, you know, stats, especially when we look at our role as men in that. But I want to touch back on what you said about when your community engagements in the rural areas, and, you know, how then do we deal with these instances where women are socialized, or should I even say conditioned, to think that, you know, being beaten by their partner or their husband is an act of love, and maybe even tied down to one of the first things we talked about in terms of the role that men can play. Because if the women themselves feel like like, then it means hypothetically they could also then try and create scenarios or provoke men to try and test the waters to see, you know, if they are loved. But, you know, it might seem like, you know, funny issue, but like it is a serious one.
So to remember, patriarchy is not only subscribed with man. Patriarchy is a system where you even see women pushing for patriarchy. And it really needs time, it really needs investment as a community or as a society for us to start reappropriating certain social cultural norms, rearranging how we socialize our daughters. We cannot really start socializing old people now, but we can start with our daughters, which are daughters and sons, which are going to be the next generation. Because if we teach them correctly and reappropriate certain social cultural norms, I'm sure there will be a difference in the next coming years. And I think as well, yes, in as much as they've grown up and stuff, I think there's a really need for people that now are capacitated with knowledge on the pros and cons of GBV to start cascading and disseminating certain information to people in the rural, and as well as to let them know that, to let men actually know that GBV is not good in as much as you are provoked by a woman with the fight will never resolve anything.
But you know, others say that men also do experience violence in the home. How prevalent is this?
So I like to believe that a lot of men really are experiencing gender-based violence, but because of how our society is conditioned or socialized this on be a man, man up, men don't cry, a man cannot really say to I've been abused by my woman. It's a very bad conditioning that we have been done. So because of that already, I cannot really walk up to Harare Central Police and say, like, my wife has dealt with me thoroughly because of my ego, because of the society might perceive me as weak, because of... So now the issue that we have in Zimbabwe, it's culture over law. Because people are so holding on their culture, so holding on their image, so holding on what the society is going to say about me if I report gender-based violence as a man. Hence, most of the cases of men gender-based violence, I think 98% of them, they go unreported.
Oh, that's, yeah, 98%, that's a very big number.
That's me, but I'm just saying they go unreported.
Yeah. So, you know, as Women's Excel Trust, I know you guys, you've also highlighted how you guys go into the community. We spoke earlier about how, you know, when you're engaging communities in the rural areas, that issue of Ndikasaroa and Shadikanwi comes up. What are some of the issues, especially maybe focusing on the rural areas, maybe where the information gap might be larger, that you also do come across as Women's Excel Trust? So
as Women's Excel Trust, we are dealing with a lot of issues. Right now, the issue that is really running with us is SRHR, with our sexual health rights for adolescents, girls, and young women. And this project, we're actually doing it with other 10 regional players. It's a project which is being implemented by 10 NGOs in SADC. And in Zim, we are working it with Say What, Manaskano, Wanasi, and Farset. And all we are trying to do is engaging young people in advocating for SRHR policies and influencing comprehensive sexuality education as well, policies in the country. And you'd find out that this coming week, we are actually training 20 young people in Guruve, to be specific, to be SRH champions, sensitizing them on their rights, sensitizing them on how as well to cascade the information to other young people in the area and the next villages and stuff. Also, in this project, we're actually targeting to train more than 200 young people in SADC to be SRH champions. Also, we're dealing with drug use in different areas. I think under one of our grants, which is Love Alliance, sponsored by AIDS Phones, we are working with drug use and SRHR. We're doing with governance as well as an organization. And I think that's basic. And SOGI as well, sexuality, sex, and gender as well. Those are the issues that we're dealing with.
And just before I let you go, obviously, as Women Excel Trust, when you do go into the communities, whether it's in the rural areas or here in places like Harare, what has been the response to some of the programs and the things that you guys are trying to share with the community, from the community, particularly men? You say, where you highlighted, especially when we started, that they need to play a more active role. What has been the initial response from the engagements you guys have made?
So the engagements with men, I think it's a positive for us. Why am I saying so? Already, besides as Women Excel Trust trying to do men engage, I also work with Padre Enguntleni for Gender as the project, not project rather, but as the coordinator for young men in Africa. It's actually all in Africa. And right now we have more than 4,000 young men who are so willing to push gender advocacy from a point of view of giving women what they deserve, like their rights, not making rights as an exception or as a favor that we're giving them, but actually actualizing whatever our policies are saying. So I think it's a positive for us as Women Excel and for other our partners as well on the ground that are trying to push for gender equality.
All right. And if you're like me, and we probably wanted to find out, how do we get in touch with you? How can we also be part of some of the workshops and the things that you guys do to try and deal with this issue of gender-based violence? Maybe you can give us some of the platforms where people can find your work or even just get in touch with you directly.
All right. So on Facebook, we're Women Excel Trust. On Twitter as well, we're Women Excel Trust. On Instagram, Women Excel Trust. On YouTube, Women Excel Trust. And my personal number is +263 7186 20086.
You can just repeat that number again.
+263 7186 20086.
All right, so we'll be posting that number as well on our social media platforms. So I think, especially us as men, let's try and get as much information and be as empowered as possible so that we can also be the change that we want to see. That is Rodney Mutombo, the Executive Director for Women's Excel Trust, sitting down with us to talk about the issues of gender-based violence in Zimbabwe.